We got some news here, big news coming out from Russia. RT reports Russia begins slowing down Twitter over child porn, suicide, and drug use claims as regulator warns it could block service altogether. Guys, I did a lot of videos on this. The Duran, I called this on my videos as well. Russia has blocked LinkedIn in the past because LinkedIn would not store Russian citizen user data in data centers located inside the Russian Federation. So Russia banned LinkedIn. It is still banned today. You can only access LinkedIn via a VPN when you are in Russia. And so I believe Russia will block Twitter sooner, later. I don't know. I think they will block Twitter. Best case scenario for Twitter, Russia is going to slow down Twitter so much that it's going to be absolutely painful to use Twitter in Russia, and people are just not gonna use it. Replacement Twitter type of companies will come along. Maybe VKontakte will put a Twitter type of feature there. Maybe other companies will come along and fill the vacuum. But it looks like Twitter's days in Russia are over. And of course, this is going to be replicated across many, many countries. So the Russian Federation is saying that they're slowing down Twitter and they may block it because of the content Twitter has, which is true. Twitter is a cesspool of child porn, of suicide stuff, of drug stuff. It is an absolute cesspool. So that is absolutely true that Twitter does have this type of content, and the Russian government has asked Twitter to remove that content. And to date, it appears they have not removed that content. But this is also a political decision. Putin has been talking about this for a while. The Russian government has been talking about this for a while. They got completely spooked when they saw what Twitter did to President Trump, and they said, we are not going to have any of these shenanigans in our country. This is the end of U.S. big tech soft power. Companies like Twitter and Facebook that have helped regime change operations and color revolutions across the world, they will not be able to do so anymore. And it looks like countries are protecting themselves, and governments are going to start protecting themselves from companies like Twitter going after them. So this was an absolutely predictable move. Absolutely predictable. This was going to happen, and we saw Uganda, where they said, we don't want Twitter meddling in our elections, so they blocked Twitter during their elections. We saw that Australia started to take a hard line against Twitter, and actually against Facebook and Google, and they mentioned Twitter as well, with advertising fees getting paid to local media companies. Canada is also going to follow suit. France has something like that as well. UK said they're going to do something like that as well. But this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a nuclear bomb. Russia banning Twitter is going to be a nuclear bomb. So here's the story. Twitter users in Russia are about to find it takes longer to share their thoughts online as authorities start slowing the service's connection speeds amid a row over illegal content hosted by the US-based social media giant. They're absolutely correct. There is a lot of illegal content on Twitter, but that is just an excuse in order for the Russian government to protect itself against any malicious attempts from Twitter to foster any type of protests and regime change operations, and just basically malicious attempts against the government. So they're going to use, rightfully so, the illegal content that is hosted on Twitter as an excuse to start throttling Twitter's content down and eventually block Twitter. Communications regulator Roskomnadzor issued a statement on Wednesday morning announcing the decision, which it says is because Twitter, quote, does not remove content that incites minors to commit suicide, contains child porn, or information about the use of drug. The watchdog claims it has sent more than 28,000 requests for posts, links, and publications to be deleted or blocked on the platform. However, at present, quote, 3,168 pieces of content containing prohibited information remain not deleted. Those reportedly include more than 2,500 calls for children to kill themselves and 450 involving child porn. So Twitter is toast, guys, in Russia. Accusing the network of failing to adhere to Russian laws, Roskomnadzor said that the latest vivid example was the demonstrative disregard for the requirements of the regulator to remove calls to minors to commit mass suicide. That's an end quote. Unlike other social networks, officials claim Twitter did not delete the material. So Twitter's not playing along. Remember, LinkedIn said they were not going to play along about 3 years ago. About 3 years ago, when Russia required all social networks, big social networks, to host Russian citizens' data inside the Russian Federation, inside a data center located in Russia. LinkedIn said, no way, we're not going to play along with that law. And the Russian government said, you're blocked. And they've been blocked ever since. So if Twitter decides to play tough, if Jack Dorsey decides to play tough with Putin, Putin's not going to have none of that. Putin is going to put an absolute you-know-what on Dorsey. That's for sure. If the company continues to refuse to comply with the request, Moscow says, quote, these measures will continue in line with regulations up to the point of blocking, end quote, the service. Anton Gorogin, a member of the Russian Parliament's Information Policy Committee, said that the assembly supported the move and that, quote, it's a pity that Russian users have become hostages to decisions by Twitter. But justifying the slowdown, he said, the state simply has no other tools to influence the violator. Twitter is the violator. Senator Alexander Bashkin added that other social media sites should take notice, claiming that this will act as a wake-up call for YouTube and other networks that make gains at the expense of law and order in Russia. That is a warning. That is a warning to other social networks, to other big tech networks. Don't screw around with us or else we will block you. We will remove you. So it looks like they are going to make an example on Twitter. So Facebook, YouTube, Google, TikTok, I don't know, all the social networks that are involved in all this deplatforming stuff, you've been warned. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that social media sites are being used, and this is a quote, to promote completely unacceptable content for the distribution of child porn, prostitution, for driving minors to suicide. He called for tough action on those using the internet to try to take advantage of children in cold blood in order to achieve their own selfish ferret goals. At the same time, he also signaled out organizations of political rallies, such as those held in support of jailed opposition figure Alexei Navalny. Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov later clarified that the president was talking about those who call on children to take to the streets, breaking the law, and to participate in uncoordinated, unauthorized actions. He was talking about those who are engaged in criminal activity. And quote, yeah, kill two birds with one stone. Get rid of Twitter and you get rid of all this junk that Twitter hosts, all this filth that Twitter hosts. And you also remove the danger of Twitter fostering color revolutions and protests and regime change operations and just all types of malicious attempts that Twitter does promote against the Kremlin and the Russian government, and the types of things that Twitter promotes against every government whose ideology does not conform to the woke ideology of Twitter. That is, let me see if there's anything else. That's pretty much it. That's the story right there. I won't read any further. That's the big news, guys. Russia is well on the way towards blocking Twitter. At a bare minimum, Twitter's going to be so slow, it's absolutely going to be useless in Russia. It's going to be absolutely useless in Russia. So either way, Twitter is toast. Twitter is toast in Russia, and I suspect that many countries will follow suit. They did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. They deplatformed the President of the United States, and they brought all of this onto themselves. That's all I have to say about big tech. Everything that's coming now is self-inflicted wounds. And we're going to be looking at death by 1,000 cuts for big tech. That is exactly what's going to happen. All right, guys, that's the video. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, help support this channel. PayPal, Patreon, subscribe, star. This channel's completely demonetized. You'll find those links down below. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Hex, and EMC2. 2 coins that are very cool. Check them out. You'll find those links down below as well. Look for Alexander's channel. You'll find that link down below as well. And look for the Duran's main channel. You'll find that link down below as well. Take care, everybody.